Okay, same thing with fractions. Doesn't matter if it's fractions, decimals, or any type of number. Two negatives multiplied together gives you a positive, and that's what we have here. So we would end up with just multiply straight across. -1 times -3 is 3, and 2 times 4 is 8. So we get 3/8. Let's go on down here a little bit. This problem, we're multiplying a positive times a negative, which gives us a negative. Well, 3 times -1 is -3, and 4 times 2 is 8, so -3/8. This one, on the top, -3 times -4 is 12. Over on the bottom, -2 times 5 is -10. So I know the answer to this problem is going to be a negative, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative, so it's a negative. Well, 12 over 10 reduces down to 6 over 5, so it would be -6/5, which is the same as -1 1/5. So that would be a fine answer too. Let's take a look at this one. Let's move this up a little bit. -2 minus a -3. Well, let's have a little bit of room here, if I can, to do this problem. -2 minus a -3 is the same as -2 plus 3, and then plus a -2 is the same as -2, if you like to write it that way. Now what do we have? Well, -2 minus 2 is -4, and -4 plus 3 is -1. So that's actually the answer to this problem. You could do this straight across if you wanted to. -2 plus 3 is 1, and 1 minus 2 is a -1. So that would be the answer to that problem. Let's do a couple here that we skipped. This one, pretty messy. Multiplying mixed numbers, we have to switch them to improper fractions, so let's do that. That would be 8 times 5 is 40, 40 plus 1 is 41, so it would be 41/8 is the first fraction. And let me put that in parentheses. Sorry about the fraction line being slanted like that. Really the best way to write it is with a fraction bar going across like this, but that's the best I can write it at this time, is 41/8. This number here, well, it would be negative. And what is it? Well, 8 times 3 is 24, 24 and 5 is 29, so 29/8. Okay, at this point, if we could reduce something, I would do that. I don't see that anything reduces, so on the top, I'm definitely going to end up with a negative, and whatever 41 times 29 in is going to be the numerator. On the bottom, I just have 8 times 8, which is 64. So on the bottom, I have a 64 in the denominator, and on the top, that's a pretty messy numerator. 41 times 29 is 1189, so that's a really messy problem. If you wanted to switch that to a mixed number, you would have to take the 64 and divide it into the 89, and it would actually go 18 times with, let's see here, 18 times with a few left over. Let's see what we get here. Just taking the 64, and actually it would be negative. Let me put the negative in there. So let me check this here a second. Let me take the 64, and when I take that 64 into the 1189, it goes 18 times and 37 remainder, so in 37 over 64. Sorry about that horrible problem right there. This would be a pretty messy one too. Let's see what we can do here. What I would do first is switch it to a improper fraction. So the first fraction would actually be, well, let's see, it's going to be negative, and 4 times 3 is 12, 12 plus 1 is 13, so it would be 13 fourths, and that would be divided by, and let me just let me see if we can make this a little bit cleaner here for you. Okay, here's this problem rewritten one more time. Switching this to an improper fraction, 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 1 is 13/4, and that would be negative. Divided by, this would be 8 times 5 is 40, plus 1 is 41/8. Now when you're dividing fractions, you reciprocate the second fraction here. So it would be negative 13/4 times, and that's what it means when you have parentheses right beside each other, times the reciprocal of this fraction, which is 8/41. Well, the 4 goes into 8 2 times, so 2 times negative 13 is negative 26. And when the 4 goes into 8 2 times, the 4 goes in 4 1 times, so I'm just canceling out this 4 with the 4 up there, and we just have 41 in the denominator. So negative 26/41. This last problem here, on the top, I have two negatives which make a positive, so I'd have 30 on the top, on the numerator, divided by, on the bottom, I have 42. And then you could reduce that fraction and get, well, let's see, 2 goes into 30 15 times, and into 42 21 times, and so 15/21. And finally, this last problem here, in the numerator, we would have a negative 2 plus a negative 3 is negative 5. So this part here would give us a negative 5, minus a minus 5 is plus 5. So minus 5 plus 5 is actually 0. So I have 0 divided by, on the bottom, 3 minus 20. Okay, we have to do our order of operations, and you do the multiplication first, and 4 times 5 is 20. 3 minus 20 is a negative 17. And 0 divided by any non-zero number is 0. So our answer to this particular problem is 0. Again, negative 2 plus a negative 3 is negative 5. Minus a minus 5 makes plus 5. So negative 5 plus 5 is 0. And 0 divided by negative 17 is 0.